Hi, I'm Dan Casey and welcome to today's session on resilience. Let's start firstly by asking, what is resilience? Resilience is perseverance in the face of adversity. Why is this important in the workplace? Well, it's important because workplaces are constantly changing. I just think back to when I started working, the workplace was a very different place, highly structured and highly predictable. However, now most organisations regularly go through restructures, changes, mergers, acquisitions, downsizing. People's workloads have increased whilst resourcing has decreased. What's the result? The result is we need people in workplaces to be a little more resilient. Things are always changing and resilience is one way to help cope better with that. Now, when we think of resilience in the workplace, what are some of the components? Well, let's have a run through some of the components of workplace resilience. Now, the first component of workplace resilience is social awareness. People with high resilience are very socially aware. They're aware of their own feelings and emotions and aware of others' feelings and emotions. Why is this important? This is important because they can quickly identify difficult situations and behave accordingly, themselves, but also with other people. Another component of resilient people in workplaces is they have perspective. In other words, they're able to put things in perspective. So, how does this fit into the bigger scheme of things? I've seen this in workplaces a lot. People are panicking and highly stressed about something that, well, in perspective is not that important. So one of the things about resilient people is they are able to provide perspective. Now, interestingly, you might do the perspective test and realise that the report you're working on actually really is important. That's okay as well, but it's important that you understand you need to put things in perspective. Another component of resilient people is their social network. In fact, they have a social network. This means that when things are difficult, challenging or tough, they have a network of people that they can rely on, from simple catch-ups to actually helping with the situation. So, to be more resilient, think about how you use your social network and how you might be able to expand your own social network. Another component of resilient people are they tend to be optimistic. Now, I'm not talking about the positive thinker who thinks that if I think good things, they'll happen. No, the optimist, there is a lot more science behind it. Now, interestingly, optimists will see adversity as external to themselves and temporary. This means that they're always thinking that, things are going to get better and more importantly, I can do something about it. Clarity and focus are components of resilient people. The resilient people I've met and worked with are very clear and focused about what needs to happen. They're good at planning and working out the steps to achieve that goal. So one way to become more resilient is to have more focus and more clarity about your work life and even your personal life. Internal locus of control is another component of resilient people. Resilient people have a strong internal locus. What does this mean? Locus of control is all about whether you consider that you have some control over what happens to you and how you deal with it. Now, if you've got an internal locus of control, when adversity strikes, you say to yourself, well, wait a minute, I can actually do something about this. If I have an external locus of control, when adversity happens, I feel helpless, lost. I feel more like a victim that I can't change things. Now, someone with an external locus of control is often heard saying things like, why do all these things always happen to me? While someone with an internal locus of control is more inclined to say, okay, it's happened. How do I manage and move on? So people who are resilient have a strong internal locus of control. And the last component that resilient people often exhibit, surprise, surprise, is a sense of humour. Why is a sense of humour important? Well, it's a coping mechanism. We have the ability to laugh things off appropriately. It's a good way to deal with things. It's always great to work with someone who's got a good sense of humour, someone who can lighten the mood and make us take a break from the adversity or the difficult things that we're dealing with. Now, the important thing with the sense of humour is to make sure that it's appropriate. Okay, so there you have it. They're the 7 components of resilient people. Now, How do you become more resilient? Well, look, my advice is have a look at those components and think, okay, out of those 7, what are the ones that I'm already good at? What are the ones that are my strength? And what you should be doing is trying to maximize those. Another idea is to have a look at the work by Martin Seligman. He's the US clinical psychologist who came up with the idea of positive psychology. He's got some great ideas about how to be more positive, how to develop optimism, and when you do that, you're more likely to be resilient. Thanks for watching. I'm Dan Casey.